The Greg Kelly Show.
Well, I'm euphoric. Maybe I shouldn't be, but I am. This is just the beautiful reset that I was talking about. Everything is fine. What are you worried about? Everything's going to be beautiful. Don't worry about anything. Henry, why are you so worried? Don't worry. This Tim Walz thing, this crazy leftist lunatic liar, a flat-out liar. This guy is the worst. Stolen valor, absolutely. We caught him red-handed. It's one of the lowest things you can do. This is what the new vice presidential nominee for the Democrat Party, Tim Walz, a governor of a big state, Minnesota, is going around bragging about doing stuff in the military that he actually didn't do. And if you ever served in the military, if you've never served in the military, this is flat out disgusting. It's wrong. It's stolen valor. And your service was perfectly honorable. You can join the National Guard. You can deploy to Italy. You can deploy to San Diego. This is the kind of stuff that he did. I guess, letter of the law, you don't have to, well, maybe you do have to. You see, there's some reporting that he blew off going to Iraq. He was with his unit for 24 years, right up until they were supposed to go to Iraq. And then he said, I'm going to run for Congress instead. No, thank you. Not doing that. 2006 was a pretty dicey year in Iraq. And granted, I was not a fan of the Iraq war at all. But, dude, you got the perks, you got the benefits, they gave you uniforms, you got to make some money. They spent a lot of money on you, training you, and it was time to go. And you didn't go. That's very interesting. But that's, for putting that aside, because he might have letter of the law, he might have a letter of the law excuse, but some of his buddies are furious to this day that he didn't go with them to Iraq. This is before he got into politics. Very interesting. He's like in his 40s and as a social studies teacher and ran for Congress and won. And now look at him. Look at him now. Now it doesn't, the real thing is, forget his resume for a moment. He is a deranged individual. Deranged. He actually believes that children can determine on their own what gender they want to be without regard to the parents. If a child decides, if a boy decides that the boy is actually a girl and wants to be surgically altered, the parents can't stop that. They are what they call a trans refuge state. It is crazy. It is perverted. It is disgusting. It is the kind of thing that would have you locked up in jail maybe 6 years ago, maybe 10 years ago. How far back? How far back could public officials take custody of a child who wanted to change their gender and arrange for that gender to be changed without getting arrested? That's the kind of thing you want government to prevent, not to facilitate. This guy is insane. Or he's just a power-hungry jerk. That happens too. Because in the Democrat Party, if you are a white man and you want to be in, you got to go as far left as possible. Oh my gosh, you can't be this lunch pail Joe crap. That's over forever. But I got to go back to the stolen valor. All right, you ready? This is the moment. All right, this is the thing. He's speaking in front of a crowd of people. At this point, let me just make sure. Let's see where he actually did this. It's smoking gun proof of stolen valor. All right? You know what stolen valor is? Again, claiming credit for something you did in the military when you didn't do it. And as a veteran myself, it's pretty damn disgusting. Let's see here. It's a big auditorium, and he's pacing back and forth. There are about 100 people there, and he's got the microphone, and he's got a big mouth. Go ahead.
Hope woke up like many of you did 5 weeks ago and said, Dad, you're the only person I know who's in elected office. You need to stop what's happening with this. I'll take my kick in the butt for the NRA. I spent 25 years in the Army, and I hunt. And I gave the money back, and I'll tell you what I have been doing. I've been voting for common sense legislation that protects the Second Amendment, but we can do background checks. We can do CDC research. We can make sure we don't have reciprocal carry among states, and we can make sure that those weapons of war that I carried in war is the only place where those weapons are at.
busted. You are stone cold busted. Weapons of war that you carried in war, you weren't in war. You were not in the war. You didn't go to Iraq. You got out before. You got out when it was your opportunity to go, when it was your duty to go. You didn't go to Afghanistan. You went to Italy. You went to San Diego. You took off from work to go on deployment. I know how that works. Oh, everybody, I'm going off on deployment. Yeah, it's 2 weeks off. It's a paid vacation. Wow, you are busted. Now, this is one of the few places you'll hear about it on earth. Some conservative media, the whitewashing of this guy and all of the crazy stuff he's involved in has already happened. You know, the way this is going to go down, they don't want this guy to be too prominent, right? We're going to make a lot of noise about him, and they're going to realize it's a liability, so he will fade into the background, or they won't. Maybe the media will just say, we're not going to report the unpleasant stuff. It's so amazing. Here's an example. This is last night on the ABC Nightly News, which is the signature program. This is the most watched news program in the world. Actually, before we get to that, let's hear what J.D. Vance said. And J.D. Vance had something to say about this. Now, J.D. Vance, it's funny. This guy went to war. The media give him no credit for that. Trump says, every now and then you got to toot your own horn. And he's right about that. It's a lesson I once learned from Trump himself. All right, J.D. Vance, straighten this guy out, please.
Last night, Governor Walz suggested that because of your Ivy League education and your Silicon backing your political career, that you yourself are part of the elite. What are your first impressions of them trying to frame you this way to the American public?
Well, look, I came from a family where nobody in my family had ever gone to law school. I grew up in a poor family. The fact that Tim Walz wants to turn it into a bad thing, that I actually worked myself through college, through law school, and made something myself, to me, that's the American dream. And if Tim Walz wants to insult it, I think that's frankly pretty bizarre. Now, look, what really bothers me about Tim Walz, it's not even the positions that he's taken, though certainly he has been a far-left radical. You know what really bothers me about Tim Walz as a Marine who served his country in uniform? When the United States Marine Corps, when the United States of America asked me to go to Iraq to serve my country, I did it. I did what they asked me to do it, and I did it honorably, and I'm very proud of that service. When Tim Walz was asked by his country to go to Iraq, you know what he did? He dropped out of the Army and allowed his unit to go without him, a fact that he's been criticized for aggressively by a lot of the people that he served with. I think it's shameful to prepare your unit to go to Iraq, to make a promise that you're going to follow through, and then to drop out right before you actually have to go. I also think it's dishonest. Something, again, if you guys ever get an opportunity to ask Tim Walz or Kamala Harris some questions, he made this interesting comment that the Kamala Harris campaign put out there, and I bet they're regretting they put it out there now, because he said that and he was making a point about gun control, he said we shouldn't allow weapons that I used in war to be on America's streets. Well, I wonder, Tim Walz, when were you ever in war? What was this weapon that you carried into war, given that you abandoned your unit right before they went to Iraq, and he has not spent a day in a combat zone? What bothers me about Tim Walz is the stolen valor garbage. Do not pretend to be something that you're not. And if he wants to criticize me for getting an Ivy League education, I'm proud of the fact that my mamaw supported me, that I was able to make something of myself. I'd be ashamed if I was him and I lied about my military service like he did.
Damn. All right, he's got his mojo back. J.D. Vance. All right, he's a little wobbly there at first. It's all about cats and dogs and who's dating who and single ladies. Forget that crap. This guy is it. I love it. Good for him. Amazing. And he's so right. And look at the fake news. Watch this. You're engaging this. You're hearing this. They're not putting what we are talking about on TV. Everybody knew this. This has been a thing for years with this guy. They chose him anyway, because the fake news is in their back pocket. Now, all right, let me do the ABC News nightly report, right? David Muir, the pretty boy, was off last night. They had Lindsay Davis in, and then they threw to the reporter in the field, who seems to be writing a love letter to Governor Walz. Go ahead.
But in the end, Walz and Harris really hit it off. Walz grew up in rural Nebraska, served 24 years in the Army National Guard. He moved to Minnesota, his wife Gwen's home state. Taught high school social studies, coached the football team. In 2007, Walz unseated a Republican, serving 6 terms in Congress. The 2-term governor codifying abortion rights in the state after the fall of Roe v. Wade, enacting gun safety legislation, and guaranteeing free lunches in public schools.
Talk about a broad brush, huh? It's going really fast. From birth to governor in about 8 seconds. I think we need to know a little bit more about this guy, don't you? What's the rush? What's the rush, Lindsay or Debbie or whoever the hell's reporting there? What the hell? All right, so that was his liberal record, right? You see, he codified Roe v. Wade. We love that, right? We love all these things. That's the message. What about the trans crap? What about all this kids and tampons in the boys' room? You know, they signed that into law. There must be tampons in fourth graders' bathrooms in public schools, in the boys' room too. Don't ask me why. It's insane. If you're in the trans, radical world, which isn't everybody, by the way, who happens to be trans, okay? Let's point that out. We got Christine there in Connecticut, tells us all about this stuff. We got Caitlyn Jenner. But keep going with this, okay? Because this is, again, they bring up the negatives, and look at how they handle it. Look at how they put it in their fake context. Keep going.
Walz laughing off criticism his record is too liberal.
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn, and women are making their own health care decisions.
Walz and his wife have 2 children, Gus and Hope. Hope, a fixture on Walz's social media.
Hi, Minnesota. Governor Walz here, along with...
So how about that, right? That's it for his liberal record, right? Oh, I feed children. I feed children. I'm a monster. I feed children. If you want to have a school lunch program or whatever, yeah, we know about those things, okay? They've been around forever, school lunch programs at public schools. All right? You're not... I had school lunches. Oh, are they free over there? When I went, it was $1. We're not talking about that stuff. We're talking about the trans fixation that you and your weirdo brothers and sisters up there. The trans fixation on kids. The media ain't going to talk about it. We're all over it, all right? Let's just wrap up again, 50 million. How many people have watched that stupid show? I think about 17 million. This is the #1 news show in America, and they're not getting the news. Keep going.
Social media.
Hi, Minnesota. Governor Walz here, along with...
Hope. Walz's star rising in Democratic circles in recent days after he coined a new line of attack against Republicans.
These are weird people on the other side. These guys are just weird. That's who they are.
Calling them weird.
They want to take books away. They want to be in your exam room. That's what it comes down to. And don't, get sugarcoating this. These are weird ideas.
Tonight, the Trump campaign calling Walz a liberal extremist.
And again, the biggest problem with the Tim Walz pick, it's not Tim Walz himself, it's what it says about Kamala Harris. That when given an opportunity, she will bend the knee to the most radical elements of her party.
Senator J.D. Vance on a tour of his own through the battleground states, saying he reached out to his new rival.
I actually called Tim Walz. I left a voicemail. I didn't get him. But I just said, look, congratulations. Look forward to a robust conversation and enjoy the ride.
Let's get right to Rachel Scott, who is at the Harris-Walz rally in Philadelphia. And Rachel, it seems the Harris campaign is really banking on the Walz, helping to deliver voters in key battleground states in the Midwest and in Pennsylvania.
Including winning that state championship.
Exactly, Lindsay. In fact, this Democratic ticket, Vice President Kamala Harris, Governor Walz, they're continuing their swing through the battleground states, next heading to Wisconsin and Michigan. A source close to the vetting process telling me they believe that Walz will appeal to those Midwestern blue-collar voters in those critical states that they need to win. Tonight, Vice President Kamala Harris says they're already seeing momentum in those states. As for former President Donald Trump, well, tonight I'm told that his campaign is relieved that it is not Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro on the ticket. But at the same time, the former president has been fuming on social media that President Joe Biden is out of this race, Lindsay.
Lots of excitement in that room. Rachel, thank you.
Stop! All right, Rachel is the one who asked the question, the nasty question last week at the NABJ. You hear like all of the very controversial. Can we agree that tampons in the fourth grade classroom, in the fourth grade boys' room is controversial? You see how they omit all of it. They just don't even go there. And they wrap it up like, oh, well, we're going to let Vance say something in our piece. And he says, well, they're radical, liberal, we don't like it. But why? Why? You got to go into that detail, and they don't. It's It's Orwellian. That word is used a little bit too much sometimes, but it's so perfect. A new reality that's fake, so it's not reality. It's a fake world, and we're on to them. We're not going to let them get away with this, okay? It's anyway, at the same time, it's all beautiful, isn't it? I feel great. Be right back.
Greg Kelly. is the Greg Kelly Show.
So, the only good thing about Walz is it's not Shapiro. They say that I don't care about Shapiro. Would Shapiro really have helped win Pennsylvania? I don't think so. I think the Shapiro guy is totally and completely overrated. Now, there may be, was he not given the job because of anti-Semitism in the Democrat Party? Probably. That's a thing. Oh, okay. We're not going to pick the Jewish guy because a lot of our people would be upset because they're anti-Semitic. Isn't that like a huge story right there? That is a big deal. That's a big deal. Now, having said that, this guy is way high in his own supply. Oh, my gosh. I have never seen somebody so obnoxious. Josh Shapiro coming out there talking like he's an emperor. But I guess he's like the emperor in Coming to America, right? Remember the guy who was king of, what was the name of that country? Anyway, why do I say that? Because he's talking like he's black, and he's not black. Or he's talking like a Southerner, and he's not from the South. His name is Shapiro. He's doing this weirdo copycat Obama thing. There are a lot of black people in the audience, so I guess this would be, what's the word, pandering? Huh? Patronizing? Something along those lines. Governor Shapiro. Is this their great big hope in the Democrat Party? Listen to this. Am I too hard on this guy? Go ahead.
Now, Billy, hear me on this. That's a hell of a stark contrast from the guy running on the other side. Oh, y'all know who I'm talking about, I guess. You see, Philly, I know y'all. We walk around with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder because we remember, right? Donald Trump? Well, he's now got a partner with him. Y'all see that guy? Yeah.
I don't know. Diego, do you hear that, right? The y'all and stuff like that. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
It's fake.
Yeah, it's very fake.
How do you get away with that? How did somebody say, hey, wait a second, pal, look, you went to high school in the suburbs of Philadelphia. This is not you. You're a lawyer from Washington, D.C. You went to Georgetown. Why are you talking like that? Why are you talking like that? Because it's pandering, because it's politics, because it's phony. You can see Donald Trump go into any setting in America. He is the same guy. Same guy with Putin. Same guy with the guy at McDonald's. Well, actually, with Putin, he's pretty tough. But you get what I'm saying.
You're listening to the Greg Kelly Show.
I understand that the privilege I've been given as a white man and the privilege of sitting in the office of governor, that privilege had better be used to not just talk about the problem, but to solve the problem.
Wow. Says all the right things for a woke white liberal. Man, oh man, oh man. Speak for yourself, pal. All right? As a white man, as if you represent white people. The people don't look at things that way. You do. Because it's a virtue signal, and it's a way to fortify your own power and enhance your status. But that crap has a trickle-down effect, and pretty soon people are being held back because of their race, are being judged because of their race. You already got yours. You can talk about your race as it's some sort of limiting factor. There are people from all walks of life, black, white, red, brown, who don't want to be judged on that crap. You even make jokes about it. This is Tim Walz. That's Tim Walz. Your next vice president? No way. It will not happen, I hope. No, I'm feeling very, very good about this. And in some way, I think this may be a nod to her giving up. I have a theory, but I could be. Let me come back to you on that. Here's Tim Walz making cracks about white people again at his big moment last night. Cut 42.
Some of us are... Some of us in here are old enough to remember. I see you down there. I see those old white guys. Some of us are old enough to remember.
What does an old white guy have to offer? As much as an 18-year-old. An 18-year-old pansexual Hispanic. It doesn't matter. Actually, let's face it, if you're older, whether you're white or pansexual Hispanic and an older person, I don't care, but you probably have something to offer, in part because of your experience, right? Wasn't Joe talking about that up until like the wisdom? Wasn't there all that wisdom? It's amazing. Where is Joe? The only person asking questions about that is Trump, and he's spot on. It was a coup. What the hell happened? How did they get him out? How did they threaten him? And this woman walking around like 14 million people voted for her. 0 people voted for her. 0. And there she is, the nominee. You know how hard it is to get the freaking nomination? You got to go through the snow in Iowa. You got to go up to New Hampshire. You got to go to those silly living rooms, and you got to listen to everybody. I mean, some people like it. I don't think I could do it. I couldn't. I couldn't. Oh, my gosh. You know, somebody talks about their problem, and you got to pretend that government is a solution. Trump did it the right way. He really did. He didn't do that living room stuff. All right? He told everybody, hey, this is who I am, and this is what I believe. This is a little item. It's all coming out on Kamala, but we probably ain't seen nothing yet. All the dirt we know about Kamala, especially the homewrecker Willie Brown situation, sorry, but, you know, hey, again, nobody's perfect. I've made mistakes. I have to say that every time I start pointing fingers at people and their, well, you know. But she is not equipped for this job. For instance, listen to how the hell is this person going to be in a room with Putin? You ready for this? Okay. Kamala, back when she was state attorney general, I believe. Hit it.
And as a woman, there's a balance to be struck between being tough and being a bitch. Turn that off.
She can't stop. Wasn't that funny? Putin would. The Yankees really got it wrong this time. Oh boy, the Yankees are so stupid. Must be all of the marijuana we've been put. I don't know. Maybe it's the TikTok. Has TikTok made this country stupid? Possibly. One of the things. There are a lot of things going on to take this country down so that somebody like that silly woman and this fool of a man, Walz, would be even remotely considered eligible for this big, big office. All right, so back to the stolen valor for a moment. This is Alpha News. We had her on last night, or actually yesterday during the show. Liz Collin, great reporter. And this is years ago. She was on Walz about his silly military games that he's been playing. Before we do that, remember, the media are drinking it up. They love it. They don't care when a Republican serves. They don't care that Vance served. They don't care that McCain served. I told you that McCain serving in Vietnam, he was there for 5 years in a prisoner of war camp. They talked about Buttigieg's 4 months in Afghanistan during the debates of 2019, 2020, when he was running for president. They talked about it 10 times more than they talked about McCain's military record. 5 years in Vietnam, no big deal. 4 months in Afghanistan, oh my God, it's amazing. He's gay and he's in the military and oh my God, he went to Harvard. They swooned. All right, where the hell was I? Oh, yeah. Let's do I was swooning there. Alpha News, cut 47.
Back in 2005, a warning order went out to the 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery to mobilize for a mission to Iraq. At the time, Walz served as the unit's highest non-commissioned officer, but months later, Walz would retire from the Guard, avoid the deployment, and run for Congress. Tom Behrens was next in line for the position and was asked to take his place.
I was like, well, for Pete's sake, if this guy quit, if I say I'm not going to do it, I mean, what the hell kind of leadership is that?
Good question. All right, so he's in for 24 years, and just before they go to Iraq, he says, I'm not going. Now, I'm trying to get the paperwork. There's a set of paperwork, I'm told. I haven't seen it yet. He re-enlisted in the fall of 2001 for 6 years. That would take him to 2007. And he got out to run for Congress. He quit prematurely. He had a commitment of 6 years, and he got out. This is Tom Behrens, who again served with him. You heard it in that report. Cut 48, please.
You know, when he was a congressman, he bragged that he was a command sergeant, retired command sergeant major. I'm the highest ranking person ever in the House, and all this lie that he was telling. The state of Minnesota came out after 2018, after this was exposed, and they said, well, he can say that he served as a command sergeant major, but he can't say he's a retired one because he's not.
And that's what he was saying.
And he was saying that, and there was lots of lots of cards coming in the mail, for him to be elected. They said right on there he's a retired command sergeant major, just tooting his own horn, just hanging on the coattails of people that actually are command sergeant majors that went through all the process and put all the time in.
Well, if you think this is a minor point, it's not. It's a big deal. And remember, this is what makes him so appealing. One of the things, they think it makes it more, oh my God, a guy in the military who's also pro-trans? Ooh, that makes it more awkward, they think, for us to, attack this guy for his crazy policies. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And the fact that there may be a lot of deception here and that it's a case of stolen valor, to emphasize, to show you what a big deal it is, as Kamala is introducing him, she's bragging about all this stuff that might be fake. Cut 50.
It was Coach Walz's students who actually helped him decide to run for office. And he served 12 years in Congress, representing a purple district as he reached across the aisle to get things done. He was the highest ranking enlisted man to ever serve in the United States Congress.
Yeah, we're not so sure about that, actually. That's got to be checked out. Doesn't look like it's the case. This did not make it into the TV commercial. Back to Alpha News, our friend Liz Collin reporting in Minnesota, cut 49.
A spokesperson for the Minnesota National Guard said Walz wasn't able to retire as a command sergeant major since he failed to complete coursework and requirements related to the rank. Verified documents show the Army corrected his service record. Walz was reduced in rank to an E8 Master Sergeant after retirement and his conditional promotion.
Huh. Reduced in rank. And she had the paperwork. Here's something else that did not receive a shred of mention. All the big news shows, because cable news doesn't matter, and cable news barely mentioned it, if they did. This guy was busted for driving 95 in a 55. That's pretty fast, don't you think? I've never driven my car 95 miles per hour. Maybe you have. I've never. I'm a bit of a safety guy when it comes to driving. I'm a very conservative driver. 95 in a 55, and he was drunk. He was drunk. It may be a long time ago, but I think it's relevant. That's the whole thing. You run for president, you run for vice president. They say your life is an open book, but we have the fake news not even bothering to look at the book, even glance at it. Because in the book of life, anybody's life, if you get arrested for something, that's major. That takes a chapter, half a chapter, that's mentioned. All right? It is. It's part of the story. Folks, I went through some difficulty, right? Remember, it's a long time ago, a dozen years ago. I write a book. 11 years later, guess what's in the book? That stuff. I addressed it. I talked about it. Every time my name comes up in the media, every time they got to say, once accused, blah, 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 blah. Greg Kelly was accused, blah, 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 blah. It's in every single thing. I see it 80 times a day. It doesn't bother me, but I see it 80 times a day. Anywhere I go, everywhere I go, this thing follows me. This guy, I'm sorry, he was putting the people of Nebraska at risk. You can't drive that fast. Look, it's not that in and of itself is not a deal breaker, okay? But the people have a right to know. Remember George W. Bush, drunk driving in like 1976 or something like that. He was arrested for it up in Kennebunkport. And they kept it secret up until the eve of the election. And it was a major story. They should have put it out earlier. I mean, it wasn't, again, Cheney got arrested for drunk driving. Bush got arrested for drunk driving. It used to be a bit more, I don't know. Look, it's always wrong. But I think it's part of the story. How does he get away with that? Democrat immunity? What is it? How are they propping? We're in a new zone here where they're not going to report anything negative about these people. We're going to have to rely on, conservative media, the UK Daily Mail, one of the greatest media outlets right now in the world, even Fox News and the Wall Street Journal. They're all weirdly conflicted about this stuff. They're weirdly conflicted about Trump. What's the problem? What is the issue? And don't tell me that he needs to lighten up on the Georgia governor. He needs to give it to the Georgia governor. He can't catch a break. We already know he says tough things to people, especially a guy who, can you do me a favor, the Georgia governor thing where he says he's not going to endorse Trump? He's not going to support, he didn't vote for Trump. How do you support somebody and go out of your way and publicly say in the heart of an election season that you're not going to vote for the guy? That's what he said. And that has to be addressed. The governor of Georgia, critical state, can be influential when it comes to elections, right? Same with Brad, Mr. Integrity, Brad. You can't say this and let it go unaddressed by anybody who's got some, if you know what I mean. Go ahead.
Speaking of the Georgia primary, who did you vote for?
In the Georgia primary, I didn't vote for anybody. I voted, but I didn't vote for anybody. The race was already over when the primary got here.
But you didn't vote for Donald Trump?
I didn't vote for anybody.
Why not?
Because the race is over with.
Wow. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wanted to go vote. I always try to go vote and, play a part in it. But look, at that point, it didn't really matter. I've said for a long time, as you know, I'm going to support the ticket. That's what I'm doing now. And we have a lot of races on the ballot here in Georgia, not just the presidential race. We got a lot of my friends and partners in the General Assembly, and I'm focused on holding our majorities and making sure we turn out the vote for the whole ticket all the way to the top.
But there were a lot of other Republicans who came out and voted in that primary and voted for Donald Trump. So I think it would be pretty interesting for them to hear, why you didn't feel the need to vote for him or didn't want to.
Well, it would be, for me personally, politically, it'd be interesting if I had a vote for him, be interested if I didn't, or be interested if I didn't vote at all. But at the bottom of the line, it doesn't really matter. He was a presumptive nominee before the primary ever got here. I didn't support anybody.
What
in
a
the race.
stupid bubba this guy is. Man, oh man, oh man. Again, I like this southern accent on him. Terrible, terrible, terrible. Get the goofy comment from his wife as well. But this is a side issue right now. Governor Walz gave illegal aliens driver's license, right? Driver's license. And, actually, here it is. Cut 40.
Today, Governor Tim Walz signed the Driver's License for All bill into law. This will allow all Minnesotans to get a driver's license regardless of immigration status.
It's done.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made Driver's License for All the law of the land.
Wow, driver's license for all. And that's crazy. That's crazy, previously illegal stuff. That suddenly it's mainstream. It's not, no matter how they pretend this is normal, it's not normal. We can't let it become normal. And again, I'm feeling pretty good about all of this. Aren't you? But we have to be very aggressive in telling our friends, family, the audience. I think Donald Trump, again, I'm not saying he has to change his tune at all. I don't want him to change anything that he does. I only want him to add the people he hangs around with, because I think in smaller groups, they got to start engineering this. It would be awesome, awesome. Undecided voters in a room with Trump, televised. Watch the magic happen. It really can. Be right back.
Greg Kelly. You're listening to The Greg Kelly Show.
Yeah, but that guy busted for trying to get a hitman to kill Donald Trump. And the inept Secret Service is still charged with protecting Donald Trump. They haven't reassigned, I think, one person, no responsibility. It is a very scary situation. Donald Trump just said this morning that being president and running for president is a dangerous business. It really is. Man, pray for him. All right, Joanne, speak to me.
Hi. I think that Trump and Vance need to stress the importance of the reason why the food is so expensive and everything else is due to the lack of our energy independence. That's what they need to stress. The fact that we don't have the fuel is so expensive.
He said it this morning. He said that this morning on Fox and Friends, actually. Said that very thing. Yeah. Somebody was asking about the rent going high and food, and he said he brought right back to energy. It was a learning point for me. I didn't know that, and good for you. How do you know that?
I don't understand why the food is so expensive. They cannot relate both Vance should definitely visit some food pantries to see how they've increased since Biden took office.
Vance knows that, don't you? I mean, we know that. I mean, he knows that. Don't you think he knows that?
No, people, the average person or low IQ, don't understand that we need to be energy independent, and things will go down. The prices will go down. Fuel won't cost so much money, so that the drivers can get to don't have to increase their production.
Yeah, let me ask you something.
Don't go to a farm and pick out crops.
When you go to the when somebody goes to a food pantry, isn't it free?
A lot of times you have to either belong to the church, but others you don't. But the lines, my friends work them there, and the lines have increased, and it's all because they can't really afford the food, and that's the problem. But people don't understand that if we were energy independent, food prices would go down, besides other things, but food is what people are stressing.
Do you go to
Maybe
a food?
Vance can go to pantry, speak to the people.
Well,
there.
I mean, look, they're all over this. All right, they talk about energy all the time. Whether they go there for the, they got to run their campaign. Let me ask you: are you going to a food pantry?
No, thank God.
Oh, okay, good.
But I contribute. My friend does. Suffolk County has quite a few.
Yeah.
And she says that the increase is incredible, and so maybe you can give some things to food pantries. I don't know.
Everybody should.
Compassion.
Everybody should. Joanne, thank you very much. Okay. Bye-bye. Nate in the Bronx.
Yeah, worth shifting gears a bit with regard to foreign policy. This is probably my biggest hope is that Donald Trump does not stuff his second administration with neoconservatives the way that he did the first time around. People like John Bolton, Mike Pompeo, etc. Because what's going on with regard to Iran vis-a-vis Israel could easily lead into a third world war. Because you're not looking at just the immediate combatants between Israel and Iran, but forces farther afield. Because Iran has patrons in Moscow as well as in Beijing. They hold joint military exercises.
He's warning about World War III all the time, night and day, and Bolton is not coming back. But let me ask you something. I never heard of Mike Pompeo being a neocon. What makes you say that?
Well, Mike Pompeo has taken policy stances that actually align with people like John Podhoretz.
Forget that John Podhoretz guy and those dudes. Give me what did Mike Pompeo do that was, you think, neoconish?
Well, he supported the Iraq War, for example.
No, hold on a second. He wasn't in Congress then. He wasn't there. All right? He wasn't even in government, pal. All right? He didn't vote on that war. You got it?
He didn't have to.
Nate. What do you mean he didn't have to? He wasn't in government. He was a guy making money. He had a private aviation thing and he was doing all kinds of stuff. He wasn't in politics there. Cut him some slack, man. And get your facts straight.